Hello and welcome to the Technical Footballer Podcast, dedicated to creating better players with advice from professionals all across the country. Today I'm joined by ex-pro Curtis Wynter, a fullback from Coventry City, as we talk about defending 1v1s and the battles he had against some recognisable names in the game.
Cool. Yeah, well, name's Curtis Wynter. So I was at Coventry City Academy from the age of 8 all the way up until 18. So football was my life. Trained really hard, made lots of sacrifices as you should as a young player. 8, slept and breathed football basically. So I broke into Coventry's first team when I was 17 years old. Played a couple of games for the first team. Travelled with the squad. Was on quite a few benches. The lifestyle, going away, hotels, and all that kind of stuff. You're playing in front of thousands of fans. It was like typical every boy's dream. I played until I was 18. I didn't get another contract. Chris Coleman was my manager at the time. So I thanked him for giving me an opportunity, but not so much when he released me. Pretty cutthroat, but no hard feelings there. Had to move on. I played a year. I got an opportunity to play in Spain, part of the Glenn Hoddle Academy. So Glenn bought a team. Glenn Hoddle, obviously famous England player. He bought a football team out there, and he gave a group of English lads an opportunity to be part of a team out in Spain. And I was fortunate enough to be part of that squad. So managed to play a full season out there, played 20 plus games, got the love for football back again. So that was up until about 20 years old. I came back to the UK, tried to find my way a bit, got lost a little bit, to be honest with you, I'm not going to lie. Had a few setbacks in terms of, as you know, when you get to that age, you're going on trials and it gets very political as well. Fell out of love with the game a little bit, and then I done the whole semi-pro for a couple of years, and then the typical got a few injuries, set me back, and then so I've had to find new things that I was good at to keep life moving on. So no regrets, but
cool.
Quite a little bit short. Yeah,
Definitely. It's a common theme, injuries. You know, fitness is so crucial in a game like football. So yeah, rightly so. But Chris, just to touch upon your time with Chris Coleman, that's amazing, because from what we were seeing there, Wales, Euro, terrific manager. Is that what you'd say he lives up to? He's quite a good manager.
He is, yeah. He's I firstly have to obviously thank him for giving me an opportunity at such a young age. So I got thrown in this. I got thrown in the deep end a bit. I was at a point at Coventry at that time. The squad was pretty small, so I think that was the reason for getting in the team. Now I deserved it at those times. But the squad was pretty small. I remember the morning. No, it was the day before. Our training ground was it was completely frozen over. It was during the winter time, and we had a few injuries. We had a few injuries in the team, and I'd been on the bench a few games before that, so I'd experienced being around it and stuff. And I remember the day before the game, training, and I looked around the squad, and we did some shape work, and I was the right back as part of the starting 11. So I think my dad actually came to the training session because it was held at the stadium that day. And I remember just kind of looking at him square in the face and thinking, like, I was like, I'm going to start tomorrow. So my adrenaline was like running, like racing. But again, Chris Coleman was a good man management. He spoke to me quite early. He said there was a possibility I would play. He told me to not have any nerves. He told me the things that he liked from me and what he wanted to see during the game. He said I had nothing to fear, even as a young boy. He said go out and express yourself. And he was good. He was good. As I say, you see the passion he's sort of shown when he's Been to Wales, got Wales quite far in the Euros and stuff like that. Didn't quite work out for him at Sunderland, but no, he's a good guy.
Yeah, definitely, yeah, and that's what I've obviously even like just as you touched upon there, just watching the Netflix series "Sunderland Till I Die." Just seems like a great bloke, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt, I'll bring you on a second. But now we'll talk about obviously the topic today, which is going to be defending 1v1s. Obviously, attacking, defending 1v1s is a huge part of the game. It's something that we're focusing more and more in this country to get.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most exciting things to see on a football pitch as well. Just get on their feet. And obviously, Curtis, yourself as a fullback, I think that's a terrific point to bring up. So what would you say your strengths were on the pitch in terms of what you've done?
As a right, I'd like to say defending. That would be I'd like to think so. So I'd say, firstly, from a defender's perspective, you have to enjoy the art of defending. And I feel as though today, you can see at the top level in the Premier League, a lot of the fullbacks are very et up on the attacking part of things, which is a big part of the game. But they've lost a bit of the essence of what's the main goal as a right back, is to stop the ball, getting crosses in, stop shots. So you need to enjoy defending, and I definitely say I enjoy defending. I love training. I love practicing for it. I love blocking shots, getting my face in the way. It's got a bit of a flat nose now because of it. So you gotta get stuck in there. But no, I would definitely say reading the game was probably one of my big strengths. So as I wasn't the biggest physically, I was always quite a slight build, quite skinny. So I had to be one step ahead in certain areas. So anticipating danger. If I had a quick winger, I was quick, but I wasn't the fastest. So it was anticipating whether a midfielder was going to try and take me inside and then try and get in behind me. So it was anticipating all those movements first. So moving on from that, I'd probably say on the ball. So my composure on the ball, being able to spot passes, start the play from defence as well. That was probably one of my strengths. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's great. I love that you touched upon the art defending there, because it's strange now, because sometimes now you'll see right wingers that are just turned into fullbacks now because of just how attacking the game has got. But Matt, you're a big fan of the art defending, aren't you?
Love it.
Yeah,
I love a good tackle. Did you used to like to tackle, Curtis? You say you was quite small, but did you get your foot in?
You know what? I wouldn't say I was the most gritty defender. Why is that your field?
Yeah, because I'm so big, and I say so big. I was only like 6'1", but I was big in school. Obviously, I never went like semi-pro or anything like that. But just playing with mates and stuff, I was tall as a kid, so playing with them was just like push them off. You know what I mean? Like,
give me that ball. Give me the ball.
Put a foot in. So I think, Guys, if you was to compare yourself, right, to any modern fullback, who would you like to say your style is like?
Okay, it's a good question. I've had these conversations because a few of my friends obviously still play, so we have these chats a lot, and we always banter and say, like, if I was still playing the Prem now, I would be him. So I think the closest is probably Alexander-Arnold.
Oh, really? Okay. That's quite an aggressive one for someone who likes the art of defending.
Yeah, so for obvious reasons, I'm not at the same level as Alexander-Arnold. He's playing one Champions League and leagues. But I think if I was going off my style, so as I said, Alexander-Arnold's quick, but he's not the most electrifying.
Yeah.
He has to be, you can see how he uses his brain quite a lot, and he tries to dictate the game as much as he can from a right. He's almost like a midfielder in a way. He comes into the play, he orchestrates from the back. You can see like the way he passes the ball. He's very like detailed to his technical ability as well. So that was something that I tried to pride myself on as much as I could. So we'll go with Trent.
I love it.
I mean,
There's
What
not
about
a
you?
better right back to compare yourself with, though, is
I
there?
know, yeah, I went for the best.
Yeah.
I went for the best.
fair
What
play,
about you,
fair
Matt?
play. Be cool. Be cool, yeah. No,
How's that, Coach?
Sorry, I was going to say, Matt, what about you?
Probably, I don't know if he's still playing for Arsenal, actually, but probably more like Mertesacker.
He's a coach now.
Just big, not very agile. Don't mind a header and put a foot in. Is he still? I don't know if he's gone, isn't he? Is he retired?
Yeah, he's. I think he's under 18s manager now. But I get you gist.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah.
He was long gone now. I don't know if you guys saw like his match preparation or how he used to feel mentally about games. Like it came retired. Like he said, like the night before the game, he'd get the sweats, he'd get the shits as well. Like he was awful apparently. Like he used to get so anxious, and this was the captain of Arsenal Football Club, obviously, and which is obviously going through this trauma and stress like every single night, even the morning before a game. Which is,
do you know why that was? Because he knew he didn't have any pace. That's why he was.
It's close to get Premier League attackers.
Premier League will do that. Right. So just back onto the topic of 1v1s again. Were there any good coaches when you were coming up that gave you some really good points when it came to 1v1s? Like, were there any ones that stood out where you were like, wow, I still use that today and it's terrific?
Yeah. Again, I feel like I could give credit to all the coaches through all the age groups, because especially in the younger sort of between under 9s to under 14s, we'd have specific months. So we'd have like a month working on really focusing on shooting, really focused on dribbling and so on. So we had like a month where we'd focus on defending. And as part of those little sessions that they put on, they would really focus on how to get out to the attackers, slowing yourself down, showing them a particular way depending on what foot they were. We would work on timing blocks and all that kind of thing. So I wouldn't say there was any one particular coach that stood out for me that really focused on it, but there were definitely particular tips that I've took with me into professional, semi-professional, even playing if I played at the park with my boys, I would do certain things that I remembered from when I was a kid. So yeah,
definitely, yeah. It's something that I see a lot, even with some of the age groups that I coach. What I tend to do is I like my fullbacks just to get tight onto their play. Obviously, it depends how fast they are. You know, they want that ball in behind. But I think, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that's all about having the right cover. So I used to find is when you're playing with like a back three, it's quite nice just to get tight onto that player.
That's right. Yeah.
Show that you've got that extra cover at the back. Did you find the way you defended changed a little bit when you're playing in the back three or back four, Curtis?
So I could go through sort of times and eras as well. So when I was part of the academy under 18s, I would say there wasn't that much onus on going to just my winger directly. I think, again, I don't know if it's cheating a little bit or just good communication, but a lot of the time you get your winger on your team to sort of come back and assist you, and you kind of keep your shape with the back four. I feel like the more I went into semi-professional now, the coaches were very adamant on, he's your man, go and mark him, do not let him get a cross in. If he takes the ball and tries to run across the pitch with it, you go and stick with him and do not give him a yard, do not give him a sniff. In a positional sense, I did play in a back three when I was in Spain. Even though I was right-footed, I played the left of the three at the back, and I found myself. You find yourself in different circumstances, so you're rather than necessarily going out to the winger there, you're more focused on a second striker or your midfield runners sort of going into midfield and closing down. A lot more to think about. Again and again, it just, I think the main art about defending, and you see it with a lot of Prem teams now, which you can see the good ones from the bad ones, is the art of communication. So the more you talk, as I say, the more you talk and you get your midfielders to do their job properly, the less work you have to do. And as a defender, you see Virgil van Dijk, some games he looks like he's strolling through games, he's like a Rolls Royce. That's because he's getting the guys in front of him to do their jobs, and he gives him less to do. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's someone that's terrific at defending 1v1s. And I think just because the pandemic has happened, and obviously now you're allowed to have, no fan over voice on everything. I never realised how loud Van Dijk is. He is. He's without doubt the loudest player on the pitch. Whenever he's playing, he's just constantly playing.
And that's what you want.
And obviously he
against Villa though, wasn't he?
Everyone else. Go on, man.
Won against Villa though, was he? Absolute shocker.
Matt, you a Villa fan by any chance?
I'm not, no.
Oh, you're not, no?
No.
Okay.
But that game has put me off football.
Well, I'm a Man United fan, so let's not talk about that. We lost 6-1 a
Oh,
couple hours before that, so just as bad. It was just as bad. It was awful.
Jesus.
Awful.
So, guys, you said you played the left of three at centre back.
Yeah.
How did you find that being at centre back? Did you start at a centre back and then move to right back, or the old Jerry? No one grows up to want to be ground back. Like, what was it for you? Did you always want to be right back? Did you want to be Gary Neville?
I'm not gonna lie. I grew up wanting to be Michael Owen. Realistically,
Okay.
I think we all started. Scoring goals, just wanting to get on the ball and do bits. But I was tall when I was really young, and when I went on my initial trials for Coventry as a 9-year-old, they just looked at me and said, "You're a centre back," straight away.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, I've never made a tackle in my life, so how do you work that one out? So I went through the majority of my youth team as a centre back. That's where I felt most comfortable. Rio Ferdinand was my idol. I had my socks over my knees like him, had the same boots, done everything, tried to base my running style off him. Like everything was Rio. And then and then you start to see, when you get to 15, 16, you see players have like these mad growth spurts. And they get into like 6'3", 6'4", and I'm like, that's what you need to be really to be a top centre half. You can't afford to be losing headers and getting overpowered. So it sunk in for me. I'm gonna have to adapt my game. So that's how I became a right back.
Okay.
When we.
So you did want to be Gary Neville. Brilliant. I love that.
Interesting. That growth spurt is vital for some players as well. But also because of the stature as well, it helps the anticipation, which you talked about so much before. I think what it was, Van Dijk, who, again, we're talking about him only because of how good he is. 1v1s is that he spoke about when he was at Ajax Academy. I think he was out.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Holland, yeah,
definitely in Holland. But he spoke about how when he was in the under 14s, under 15s, he was like the smallest player there, and the coach was putting him at right back, left back, just testing him out. Like, knew he was quite good at anticipating and reading things, but just didn't have the stature. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like from 16 to 18, he had a massive growth spurt. And His game then all of a sudden he became a centre half.
Yeah.
Hasn't looked back since. But just to touch upon what you were talking about before, Curtis, I think it's very guilty of something that the English do here. Like we'll look at players and we'll go, right, you're playing here, and that's it. And you're like, right, that's it. He's decided, that's it. I'm playing.
It's purely physical as well. It's got nothing to do with your technical abilities, just because of your stature. And then we just like, that's automatically where you're going to be on the pitch. It's like the fat kid in goal at school, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
You go to the steps and you're not their position. That's it.
It's a
What's
very.
your opinion on that? Do you think it's something that I feel like we're kind of getting away from it now? We're trying to focus more on technical ability.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it was definitely when I was coming through. It was a very narrow-minded view, and it was something that, again, having support from like my dad, who is a big football guy. Like he was at West Brom's youth team. It's a similar situation to me where he was a centre back and he didn't grow to be 6 foot plus. Had to play other positions. So he kind of fed it into me. He was like, Kurt, never stipulate yourself or put yourself in one bracket. It is like in training, try and get yourself into midfield, get on the ball, try and get up front, try and score some goals, because you need to add all these strings to your bow, because you never know how a manager views you, if you're going to grow when you get older and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like it was a very narrow-minded culture a few years back. We're trying to get out of that a lot more now. As you can see in the Premier League, if you can't play multiple positions, you're going to find it very difficult to get into teams. You can't be, you very rarely see a number 9 now. There's only one place on a pitch for a number 9. So you need to be able to play on the wing as a number 10, in the midfield or whatever, to get into a team. You know what I mean?
Definitely. No, that's quite right. Obviously, as we always say, like it's a common cliche, the game has changed, and positions and where people are just constantly evolving. Just going back to your career, Curtis, we touched upon it a little bit before, but who would you say like are some wingers that stood out in your time in football where you were like, wow, that was good. I've got Brinst here. And how did you have to change your game in order to play against some of those players?
Okay, so direct wingers. So one that I played directly against, again through all the age groups from 9 till 18 every season, and it was a name that was sort of touted around quite a lot. I knew a lot of the players from our team knew him, and a lot of like the England scouts were watching him. So it was a one that I used to get up for. It was Andros Townsend. Plays for Crystal Palace now, obviously seasoned professional, been in the Premier League for a long time now. He was one that was very direct, so he would get the ball and you'd hear the coaches on the sideline right next to him, like, get at him Andros. So that person would be me. Obviously I'll be the right back. So it was like, right then, you have to be prepared for that. And it was a chat. I used to like those challenges. It was challenges that I relished. It was you have to up your speed by a certain percent, up your awareness what's around you by a specific percent, and you have to get stuck in, because again the scary thing about these good wingers is that you could have him in your pocket for you could tackle him 8 times out of 8, and on the 9th time he could skip past you, get a crossing and score. So you have to be on it every single time, make it, you know what I mean, make it count every time. Definitely. But I would say directly was Andros. One that was a year above me that I saw tear the older age group to shreds when I was at Coventry, was Victor Moses. He was physically built. Do you know how he looks now? He was like that when he was like 16, 17.
Oh wow!
So he had that raw strength. Where I remember one of the games where he was. I think it was the game was 1-1 between Coventry and Crystal Palace under 18s, and we just finished our game from the under 16s. We're walking down the hill, so we used to get to watch like the last 10 minutes of the game, and literally it was a breakaway, last minute of the game. Victor Moses powers through the whole team, and he must have finished it past the goalkeeper, and he'd done like, he does his somersaults? Yeah. His somersault celebration. And all of our age group we just all looked at each other like, who is this guy? Like, what is this guy? How is he managing that? I could just like touch my toes and he's doing backflips.
Oh wow.
So he was one that stood out as and obviously you see the career he's had as well now. It's no surprise really, is it? It was a good one. It was a good one.
Yeah. No, that's quite interesting, because I knew Victor Moses always played for Nigeria, but yeah, I didn't know that he grew up here and he went through the youth system here. Wow, that's
yeah, he was at Palace. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And just to bring it back to Andros Townsend and coming up against those wingers, which I'm sure as a fullback is a nightmare. That just want to get the ball to their feet and they just want to run at you and let you make a decision. What was your sort of thinking to that? Were you trying to stop them from getting on the ball in the first place, or did you relish little 1v1, the balance unbalance?
Yeah. I think initially it would be as a defender, you need to get out to your winger as quickly as possible. So it's about getting there as fast as you can. When you do that, you're able to limit the options of the winger. So you make them hesitate. You try and push them back. So your job's done. If the ball goes out to the winger and they've passed it back to their midfielder or their defender, you can say, right, you've done your work.
Yeah.
If they've got the ball for whatever reason and they're turning and running at you, I knew Andros was predominantly very left-footed back then, so I obviously had to try and position my body to get him so he was attacking sort of away from the goal. And again, back then, I would have backed myself to match him for pace. You know what I'm trying to say, for strength, all those kind of things. When you feel like you're in the prime of your game, that you can match the top players at that time. So you as a defender, you want to be in control of the situation as much as you can. So it's not about lunging in or making any hasty decisions. It's just about being patient, sticking with him as much as you can, and matching his movements. But we trained for that. We do a lot of agility work. So I was very, very unfazed by someone even cutting inside me. You always backed yourself to be able to match those movements as well. So
love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So last of all, I just wanted to touch upon, obviously, being out as a fullback and being out wide. Sometimes you can be quite isolated, quite singled out in a game, and as we know, it's literally 1v1. You against this other person, which can get quite aggressive. It can get quite confrontational. Were there any times where someone was trying to get into your head, maybe speaking and talking, where the 1v1's not turned into just football, it's turned into a bit a mental game, personal, and
a personal battle,
Personal.
Yeah. Do you know what I found? That probably more so with the southern players more than the northern ones. I always used to think that, no offense to any Cockneys out there, but
Josh is from Surrey, by the
way. So you from Surrey?
Yes.
Shots fired. Sorry, mate.
You go, look, mate, this is you trying to get into my ear now. See, look. What's your way around, mate? See, look, you got to...
You like me, man. I'm trash talking. No, there was definite. Again, there's never really been a direct. In fact, there's been a couple. There's been a couple where some would try and be over friendly with you. There's a player called Harry Forrester. He played for Watford.
Yeah.
And was at Villa. He was at Watford, went to Villa, and he played for Rangers not so long ago. I think he plays in America now. But he was so chatty on a pitch. He would just talk to you about. He'd ask you questions like what you were doing on the weekend, what you've been doing after the game, and he would try and lure you into take your concentration off the game. And before you know it, he was probably one of their best players. He was I think he went to Villa for £1 million when he was 16, 17 years old. So he was one of the best players. So I was thinking during the game, is this geezer being genuine or is he trying to throw me off? And he was trying to do it to get into your head. That was his way of getting into your head. You did have certain players, as I said, the Southerners that were very self-assured, very confident. So they would be like, you'd hear little comments like saying, "Yeah, man, just give me the ball, man. I'll get past him all day." Things like that. And depending on what kind of character you are, you either you bite back, you take the bait, and you bite back, and you give a bit back verbally. But I was quite quiet as a youth team player at that age. I just kept my thoughts to myself, and I just thought, you know what, I'll let my football do the talking. And I was fortunate. We had quite a good team. We had quite a good team at Coventry as well. So more often than not, we'd come out winners of the game, and it was like, all right, then I've done my thing. We've done our job.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.